Oh, I guess we're not going to play that today. That's perfectly okay because, well, you know what? There is nobody listening right now, so we'll play it now. Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. The beginning to that, and I got to change the whole thing now.
You got a lot going on, man.
I got to change the whole opening of all the pictures that are there, and probably even the music. And I gotta tell you what, well, but it's great to have you here. And Eric Hall is sitting over there. He is our transit transience person.
Me. That's me.
And he's a gifted bus driver as well as a humanitarian. And a humanist is what you called me earlier, and I'll put you in the same category as that.
Well, thank you. I'm honored.
Somebody who believes in and you're going to have to tell us what you believe in. Just being kind to people and being a human and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I think the human experience is certainly difficult to define. I don't think anybody's really been successful at doing that. But I think we can all say that we share so much in different ways, and the variances that we have are rich by themselves, but not that different from anybody else. We all love, we all cry, we all laugh, we all, get up in the morning and do our morning routines, and at night we do our nightly routines, and no matter what culture you're from, no matter what your DNA says, it's all kind of similar. And where would we be without this beautiful planet that we live on?
We'd be really screwed.
Yeah, which just might be the definition of the human experience.
Well, you just made me think of something, which was that we all experience the same stuff, which is why when you talk about stubbing your big toe, we can all feel the same pain because we all have the same pain when we stub our big toe.
That's so true. We probably would say the same word.
Yes, we do.
And it's just the order that we carry it off in,
Why does that hurt so bad? And everybody gets that because it's not like there's a culture that's out there that goes, oh no, when I stub my toe, it doesn't hurt at all. It's a common experience that we all have, which is why the people who sell toilet paper do so well. It's a common experience that we all have about hygiene. What we do.
But it is interesting. I will point out that the bidet is enjoying a new awareness.
It is. Isn't that cool?
And I don't know what to say. I have not experienced a bidet yet.
I haven't either.
I used to tell my friends, a friend of mine who was very well traveled and sophisticated in such things, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's so better hygiene to use that." And people know that of Americans and people that don't use bidets. They know that our hygiene is not as high of a level. And my response was, I don't care. I'm never shooting water up there. But now that I'm, of an age, I can predict that at some point.
Well, now they've got the thing and it's like $100 or whatever.
Yeah, it takes like 5 minutes to set it up.
Yeah.
Save on toilet paper.
That's what I understand. And Ben Winter, who is tuned in today, he says they're the only way to go, which is the bidet. It's interesting because I worked at the Doubletree Plaza Hotel at South Center, and we had a presidential suite. and it was a very nice, big president. It had a bar and a big screen TV, and then it had you go into the master bath, and there's a toilet, and there was another device next to the toilet that I had never seen before.
Oh, the drinking fountain. Yes.
Yeah. Exactly right. And it was in fact the bidet. And I didn't even know how to pronounce, I'd never, and I said, "What's that for?" And it's, well, it's a better way of, I just hope the water's not cold. To be like, whoa!
Exactly. But, it would cut down the carbon footprint. You know how many trees we'd save a year by using bidets?
Oh, I know.
It's massive. It's massive. Even if they are cottonwoods,
Oh, I know. Well, the sad thing is if you're a tree and you're going to give your life for toilet paper, that seems to be kind of you could have a higher calling than that.
I agree. It's a shitty ending.
Yeah, it is. And my son, who is a avid person who believes in hemp and the universal properties of hemp.
Yeah.
Have you done any research on that? Because he says that you can take hemp and you can do anything with it. You can make paper from it. You can build houses with it. You can smoke it and have a nice time. You can then, it's an amazing product that is still highly unavailable to us, which seems like we should be, if it does all these things and it's like a weed and it grows like a weed and it can grow in anything and it doesn't deplete the soil. Why aren't we using that?
Isn't that strange?
That is just so bizarre to me.
I agree. It's bizarre. It's so much better in so many ways, and the cost factors are very strong, even when it's not mass produced. If we got to a point where we're mass producing everything through hemp, a lot of things would be affordable. And build a house from hemp. No, I haven't really studied hemp since the 70s. Really, I was was really doing some study on hemp back then.
Yeah, but it was a different.
It gave me a headache. It gave me a headache, but I did study it.
Yeah, I got tired of eating burritos at 3:00 in the morning, so I decided to get that.
Yeah, because that just makes you use toilet paper. You don't have a bidet. It's a vicious circle.
Exactly. Well, somebody came up with a bright idea of being able to do a portable bidet that you just it's an attachment now that you attach to your toilet, and then you can just use that, and it only costs like $100 to get it. So I tell you what, we'll do an experiment here, and you get it and use it, and then you tell me if it works for you. And
well, sure, I'll demonstrate it on the air. Sure, why not?
That was well, and they're coming directly from Eric Hall's bathroom. This episode of My Independence Report brought to you by the bidet forever, people. Splash your ass. Hey, there's a tagline.
That's a great logo, man.
Are you tired of wiping your butt? Splash your ass. That would be the way to go.
Splash your ass. Oh man, that's a catchphrase.
It is. That's another T-shirt. I'm gonna have to make more T-shirts now. So
you're on it.
That's really cool.
You're on
it. So but by the way, Eric is here, and we were going to talk about. He actually got me going because I was real excited. I'm in the process of developing a new logo. Have you ever developed a logo for a business? It is not only time consuming, but it's like, I like this, I don't like that. And then you find something you like, and then you ask somebody else, and they're like, I don't like that. And so you have to redo it, have to retry and figure it out and come up with something. I actually came up, and it was all Eric's fault. He actually came up with something that I think is going to be really cool.
I think it's just dynamite. I think you're onto something great. You're onto something great.
Well, and you did it. So you just led me down that that path. But to give you, if you're listening, to give you an idea of what it is, what we're going to do is, if you were not born in the 60s, you need to go back and listen to some of the or look at some of the artwork that was available then, especially in the Summer of Love in 67, 68, in that time period. There was some really cool artwork, but it just gave, there was a lightness to it. There was a real positive vibe, positive feeling to it, because it was very colorful and it was bright and stuff. And that's what we're going to try and emulate with the logo, because it's bright and it's happy, and which is far from what I do. But I one of these days I hope to be happy. But no, it's great fun. It'll be great fun. So
yeah, it's when folk art was really reaching popularism.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Peter Max, in my opinion, what Peter Max is, the artist that we're kind of skating around, was so responsible for, creating pictures that had this folksy feel, that was updated with these vibrant colors that really spoke to a character, our character. And I mean that in the sense of not just being a character, but the character of humanism, where we're portrayed as almost a comic strip scene. And it was a very painful era, because we were pushing up against the Vietnam War during that Summer of Love. So there was a lot of pain involved in the self-realization of what we were versus who we wanted to be.
You know, it's interesting. If you go back and listen to the music of the 60s, even the war protest songs, and a lot of the music that was out there at that time, and I'm talking late 60s, early 70s. Like did you ever see the movie Billy Jack?
Oh man, it's been a long time. That was the half-breed Indian guy with the black hat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you remember the theme song called One Tin Soldier was the name of it?
Oh, I had the drum going.
Yeah. Well, it was One Tin Soldier, and the premise of the song was you had the valley people and the mountain people, and the valley people wanted to get what the mountain people had, because they had found eternal happiness, and it was a treasure. And this is how the songs evolved back then. So there was the people on the lower level, they attacked the people on the mountain to get their treasure, and they opened up the treasure, and it said peace on earth.
Oh, I gotta watch that, man.
Yeah, listen to the song. It's a great song. It's called One. Coven wrote it. It's called One Tin Soldier. But you see, that was the premise that a lot of the kids and the youth movement and the anti-war movement was going on, which is, and even John Lennon got involved with it, with Give Peace a Chance, and there was a lot of that stuff going on at that time, and at the same time there was a Vietnam War where we had 500,000 kids over there at any given time, and a bunch of 56,000 died. It was not a good time.
It seems so interesting to me. It seems like we're going through all of that again, or on the verge of going through that again.
Yes,
we had some pretty dark times the last 8 years. I mean, particularly the last 4 years were pretty dark, but there was that shadow that was being cast the 4 years before that. And I feel like there's a release, and it may take us a couple of years to get through that, but it really feels like we're coming to another awakening similar to the 60s, where we could have another version of the Summer of Love. It might be, some other form now, but we could certainly have that version, have our own version of that. And thank God.
It sure would be. Well, fortunately, I think the kids that are coming up today are a lot smarter than we are. And they're just very similar to the kids of the 60s, because they were interested in doing, if you ever watched Woodstock and saw the kids that were that were populating that rock concert and all the stuff. It was a free time. It was woohoo, free and free love, free food, and all that kind of stuff. And then everybody grew up and figured out that you can't make any money on free love, and so therefore, the baby boomers that were the kids at the time, then they went corporate on us, and now they're in charge. They're the ones that are my age now. And
Wow.
and so they all lost that innocence, and hopefully we'll get back to that a little bit, because I don't believe it's innocence. I believe it's just a lifestyle and a way to live and a way to be.
I think you're right. I don't want to bash commercialism, because I think capitalism is a really good way to live, but we've been very irresponsible in controlling it. And that's why we have, billionaires. I mean, who was it? Bugatti? I think Bugatti just released a $9.4 million car.
Really?
And they're advertising it.
They can get enough people to buy a $9 million car that they can advertise for it.
They advertise for a $9.4 million car. Now, you have to... Who's watching TV on a Monday night? MacGyver, rerun of MacGyver is on, and with duct tape and all his tools that he uses. And then they watch this incredible car, $9.4 million. It better be. And there's an advertisement for this thing.
Can it clean your house and cook dinner too?
I don't know.
I mean, for 9.4 million, what could possibly be, unless everything is like made of gold or something?
I haven't explored it. I love Bugattis. I would love to have an old 70s Rolls Royce. That's on my bucket list.
Oh, very nice.
That's me, But for a car to cost that much in this day and age, the technology that's in that has got to be stunning. So it might be self-driving is included in part of it. Who knows? Maybe it does. Maybe that's got a what do they call that in Star Trek, where it makes food for you? Open the drawer, and the food comes out. Maybe I don't know. I'd be disappointed if I bought a $9.4 million car and was renting my apartment for $1,200, and I go out to my car and it doesn't make me lunch.
What did they call that? The food replicator. That's it. Very good.
Yeah.
It is amazing how many times I reference Star Trek on this show, because was talking to somebody about living your passion, and it's like, well, in the 23rd century, according to Gene Roddenberry, we don't have to work anymore because everything's automated. And so nobody has to pick cotton, or nobody has to build a house. It's all automated. And so that frees people up to live their lives with passion and with gusto and what they want to do.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That will be.
Wouldn't that be nice? And then it also makes me think of Woody Allen's movie. Oh, what was the name of that one?
Everything You've Always Wanted to Know About Sex.
That one was good too, but the one where he's in the future and he's the robot, and he has to steal this robot costume and he walks around like a robot. And most people, I think only like 10% of the people in the world are unemployed. And the other 90% is a poet or an artist or a writer.
and the other half are readers that are buying the books.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But then he talks to a couple. One of his girlfriends is this poet, and she's horrible. She's horrible. But we should all.
I know. I know. I remember that movie, Everything You've Always Wanted to Know About Sex, that Woody Allen did. And you remember the scene that I fell out of my chair was the scene of the all the sperm were getting together to then go and parachute down, and
oh my god!
And there was a bunch of white guys in these white suits, and then there was one black guy in a black suit, and he was like, "What am I doing here? What am I doing here?" And it's one of those movies those movie moments in a theater that you just fall out of your chair. It's so funny and so unexpected. So
I love that. I got to watch that again, man. I might do that this afternoon.
well, now let's talk about really something of value rather than just kick around
days.
Okay. You were tell us a story of how you got together with this lady who's doing this fabulous project in the woods.
Christy Fedek. She is a friend of mine. We went to school together back in grade school and I believe junior high. And then she moved to Monroe to finish high school. And then she went on into the Air Force, I believe. And then Facebook, of course, you reconnect with, lots of old friends. And we reconnected there. And she's an avid hiker. And I watch her Facebook posts. And she's an avid outdoors woman. In fact, she has a blog, Adventure Woman. And she's writing a book. And the Forestry Service has asked her to do this book. And it's about these structures, these hiking structures that the forestry department built back in the 20s up through the 60s. And I think this 74 was the last time they built one. And they're these beautiful three-sided structures that I don't know if I can share with you. That's okay. I'm going to clamp that because otherwise I'll end up hanging up on you and that'd be worse. But there are these beautiful structures that were built, some of them over 100 years ago. And of course, they dilapidate over time. And they were set up every 5 to 6 miles. So the forestry department, in order to entice people into enjoying the outdoors, built these structures in a way where people could hike 5 or 6 miles a day, make themselves comfortable in this camp area, and then move on to the next structure. That's what they were set up for. And they're built like the Appalachian Mountains have them. They're up and down the West Coast. There's 3 or 4 major trails with these structures. And they'll go way back. And it was decreed that they'd be built from the materials that were available on site.
Oh, wow.
So they would hike in, the tools that were required, and they'd spend however much time it was needed, a weekend or a week to build these structures. And they were mostly log cabin sort of approaches, very simple building, cedar shakes, log cabin construction, like the Lego logs that we used to have, that sort of thing.
But they would last forever then.
They would last forever. And there might be as simple as just a floor, and some might have, a table at one end, and some might have sleeping surfaces, on each end, and the table in the back. And none of them really most of them were about 8 by 12. There were a couple that were 20 by up to 20 feet on one side. And I think one was actually 26 by 26.
Wow, that's big, 26 by 26.
That's pretty big. And these are fantastic opportunities. And they were meant for people to come out and enjoy it and really be used if they needed to use them, for emergency shelter situations, because we didn't have the infrastructure when the concept was put out there that we do now. So over infrastructure, meaning, GPS systems, communication systems that we have, and, helicopters can fly out pretty much anywhere and get to somebody in a couple hours if they have the information, right? And over time, people, they think about the fire more than the building. So they might steal a few cedar shakes and put it into the fire to keep things burning. So these buildings sort of get vandalized a bit over time. And there was, it wasn't that long ago, I think 20, 30 years ago, they decided it was no longer a budget concern. They had other areas they needed to put, the forestry department needed to put their money into rather than keep these structures up. So there are a couple of private organizations, citizens, civilian organizations that spend their time and money fixing these structures up. Now, they can't build new ones, but they can restore the old ones.
Now, are these like in the national forest?
Yes. Yes. The Olympics have some beautiful ones. And, Oregon, all the way down through California. And then, of course, Appalachian Mountains. They've got that Appalachian Trail. That's sort of popular there, too. But there's very few left compared to how many there used to be. I think Christy said there was 100 and something, 126 structures made, and now there's like 30 or something like that.
Oh, wow. That's too bad, because that would be a really cool thing to take your kids and especially if they're 5 or 6 miles apart, you can do like a 50-mile hike that way.
Yeah, it's very accessible, and these days with COVID, they're saying get outdoors more. I mean, this may be our lifestyle from here on out. Get out into the hiking trails and take in nature. And of course, there's always a double-edged sword about that, because the more people that you have out there that don't take care of the environment as much as they do. Because here's something about Christy. She carries in everything and carries out everything, including she doesn't dig a hole, and with a lack of a bidet, uses toilet paper and buries it. She packs it back out, as many responsible hikers do.
That's one reason of not going hiking.
Yeah. I can't make it that long. Even her dogs, she'll even put the dog stuff in plastic bags.
Dog stuff I can understand, but if you're trying to hit a plastic bag or something, she must have much better aim than I would. I can tell you that right now.
I think it's a practiced skill.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Skill. I didn't ask her, I didn't go into too much depth on it, but maybe I will. Maybe I will, just for the sake of, having the right information.
And this would be one of those things that what you wouldn't do is, if you're hiking your way out and you needed something from your backpack, you wouldn't send somebody else to get into your backpack to look for something.
Hey, I got a brownie mix in that second zipper lock. Can you grab that?
Yeah, can you go get my? I got a candy bar in my backpack somewhere. It looks really like a Tootsie Roll or a
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. Oh
man, what?
But you got to do that. Well, it's like the people up at that go to Mount Everest or to Mount Rainier. That you have to take everything back out, because it's going to freeze and be there. You can have a turd that's like 60 years old that's still there.
That's right. What do they call that? Ocelite or something like that? The old dinosaur poop. You get jewelry and all that stuff out of it.
Exactly. So you gotta be responsible that way, and I applaud that, but I can't see myself. Anyway. But have you gone hiking very much?
Not so much in the last decade, but I did a good amount when I was younger. I used to love to go out at night. I was one of those night hikers.
Wow.
Because there is nothing cooler, in my opinion, than hiking in the forest during the full moon. I would make a point of that.
That if it's nice and warm and stuff, and it's clear, then the full moon, yeah.
That would be. It's stunning, and it's a whole different world out there when it's nighttime.
Yeah,
so
you can't see as far either. So there could be you could run into, I don't know, a Sasquatch or something.
Well, you could.
Yeah, and one of these days we'll have to find somebody who has run into a Sasquatch and talk to them.
We will certainly have to do that. Because I can imagine that experience would change a person's life, and they would no longer want to hike at night.
You might not have to worry about carrying your poop back because you're going to leave it there rather suddenly if you're not careful. If a Sasquatch were to come up on you,
You wouldn't need to bag anything. That's
you
right.
would, except your pants, because that would be bad. But
That's right.
but when I was a kid, we went on 50-mile hikes, and it was funny because where we would start, you'd find trash along the trail. The farther you got in, we went on the Cascade Crest Trail, which I highly recommend if you have the opportunity, because that goes all the way from the Canadian border down to Mexico. And
yeah. Okay, I've never done that.
we did a 50-mile piece of it, and it's really it's unbelievable in spots.
How long did that take you?
Well, we only did 50 miles, so we did, and that was just 7 days. And so I was at that time I was like 13, and I had a 50-pound pack because we had to pack our own food and all that kind of stuff, and we cooked and all of that, and it was a real hearty experience. But in those days, nobody had a gun that I knew of that was in our group. I don't even think that the guy had a weapon of any kind, but there was nobody. Of course, this is in the late 60s.
Wow, no bear and no mountain lions.
Never saw a bear, never saw a mountain lion. I suspect that they're more prevalent now than they were then. I don't know that, but never saw any of that stuff though.
Wow.
We were very lucky, but when you get away from civilization, you see how nasty people actually are, because when you're 10 miles in or so, most people don't want to hike that far, and the ones who do are the ones who take care of the environment. So the candy bar wrappers and the cigarette butts and all that kind of stuff, those kind of stop at about 5 or 6 miles in. But people are just so they don't take our planet seriously enough, in my opinion.
I think it must take that level of dedication to getting that far out to really start to appreciate, what is going on in our forests. And, I think that's part of the reason why Christy is writing this book. She's got a long experience with hikes, and that certainly is her environment. Being out in nature in the trees and with she's always posting pictures of trees and landscapes and, her dog's running. She loves to have a trail dog. So there's a lot of kinship to what goes on in those trails and those trees. She's really got a strong connection. And I think that explains a lot of her motivation for writing the book, is just getting people out there. And she absolutely loves these structures. I can see how welcoming, they are. So if people get a chance, I will finish and post that, or I'll send it to you so that you can post when I get that interview properly edited, because it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll put that on my Independence Report, and we'll attach it to this, and so we'll play that right after this, and it'll be good.
Cool.
Because I've only lived here all my life, and I never heard of such a thing.
No kidding.
Yeah, and have never heard of it at all.
Wow.
So, but now, what do they call them? Do you know?
Yeah. Let's see if I can get that name, because I want to make sure that it's accurate. Well, I think they're just called hiking structures. They're called structures.
Did now in your interview with Christy, did she talk about the history of them? Who came up with that great idea to start doing those?
She says the forestry department. I don't think it's attributed to either any one person, but it was part of that whole movement of infrastructure. The outdoors infrastructure was going on. The logging roads are being turned into highways and so forth. And that's when they started building a lot of the infrastructure that we have now. And this was just an offshoot of that.
I see.
So that's where that came from. And there was a budget for such things. It was really it was beneficial even for the forest companies to have people aware of being outdoors. There was an economic aspect to it all. And the fact that, all the good reasons that, the forestry department wanted people to get out and enjoy, all of the stuff that we have outdoors. Nothing like a meadow and its wildflowers and those trees. Whew.
Oh, I remember, being in a meadow and having a deer kind of walk into the meadow and look at you and scamper off and stuff. Being in the wild like that is just wonderful. You know what I think would be a great idea for somebody that wanted to be a philanthropist
Mm-hmm.
is to do that, to build like a track and make it like a 50-mile or 40-mile track. And there's a beginning and there's an end, and you control the number of people that go on there at any given time, so that you don't have people running into each other, trying to sleep in the same place, but have like a group of people that can go a day, and they pay so much money to do that, and then they hike 5 or 6 miles, and they stay in the cabin, and then they hike to a lake, and they stay in the cabin and stuff like that. I would think that would go over really well with somebody.
That's a great idea. The proceeds from that would cover the cost of keeping the trail up. Yeah. Man, I think that's a wonderful idea, dude.
I think people would do it. They'd want to, and especially if it was monitored in some degree, so that people don't get lost and like fall down and die and all that kind of stuff, which
tragic
happens.
Yeah. In fact, you're talking about the deer. There's a story that Christy told me. She was out one morning without her bidet, and she was against a tree, and a wild deer came up, and licked her face while she was busy, and then walked off.
Well, deers are pretty smart. I'm sure the deer figured out that she wasn't going to be able to chase them.
That's right. What a friendly deer, Yeah. My cat, pleasantly comes in the room when I'm so occupied, and she'll look at me wondering, what are you doing? Are you doing it right? Yeah, but I've never had, supervision by a deer, and I would find that endearing.
Exactly. That would be very interesting. And of course, I had never thought about that. I never thought of that the process that you have to go through to take care of your business when there's no toilet there. How would you hang your butt over a log, I suppose, or I guess against a tree? That would work. But you'd have to have really strong legs to do that.
I'm just glad I'm a guy, because over 50% of the time it's pretty easy.
More than that,
pretty easy. I don't know how women are able to do that. Although I do understand that they have a device that they can put up there that puts the stream in in the direction that's desired. Little attachment that you can fit and aim.
I had no. The only time that I've ever experienced that was when a gal, Eric and I, if you haven't been paying attention, we're old bus drivers, or he's still a current bus driver. I'm an old bus driver, and the only time I saw a woman taking a pee in the bus shelter. And so it was like, oh, so that's how that works. I get
it. Yep. Yeah.
No, it was not. I don't know. But anyway, so if you will do that for me and finish editing that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
not the
now.
Yeah, not the other thing. But
Okay.
if you would do that for me, that would be awesome, and then we'll put that up in right behind this, or we might edit them together. and to make it like a little bit longer, like an hour and a half or something. But it would be good. It would be good to see.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's well worth the information, and people should get out and hike more. They should see as much as of this, of the outdoors as they can.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I'm not there anymore, but when I was younger, it was fun. Did you ever go up like Mount Si or any of those things?
I have gone up Mount Si. That's a nice hike. Talk about a trail. That's an excellent trail. That's if it wasn't mostly vertical, it's almost like Green Lake. With a lot of kickbacks and an angle, but it's very accessible for people that are medium in shape.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to do it now, but
nope.
Unless I had a week or two.
Nope.
Nope.
Month or two.
Yeah. But it's definitely worth the time. And it's so good for your spirit to get outdoors. I do make an effort to go down to our local parks. I live in Burien, and there's a number of wonderful parks in this area. On the waterfront, we've got a couple. And then, of course, farther out, we've got one around a pond. And there's a couple other parks that are just great to get into the woods. And 10 minutes away from the house, and you're in nature again. And you can hear cars. If you listen, you can hear cars, but you don't have to listen. And it's a great escape. You feel like you're really rejuvenated.
You do. And there's a lot of energy that's in the forest. And then it's I tell people all the time when they're arguing with me about whether energy exists, I say, go up and put your hands on a tree, and you can feel it vibrate.
Yes,
because it's alive. And
I'm glad you pointed that out. You have an affinity for trees.
I do. Yeah. I love because it is amazing how the structure of the tree. And I know that there's this guy who's written about trees quite a little bit.
Is there?
Yeah, his name is Eric Hall, I think his name is.
Oh yeah. Heard of that guy? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, there's an audio out there someplace of a little book that you wrote.
Oh, that's right. A guy did the voiceover for that. I think his name is Kevin MacDonald.
That's right, Kevin McFry. or Kevin Mc what is it, that pork thing that they do, that
McRib.
That McRib, which has nothing. I'm not even sure that the McRib was in a pork processing plant at one time. But I'm not sure if it's actual pork.
I've never seen them release the recipe for that, so we may never know.
Nope. And they only have it on for so long because I think it would start to kill people, and then they pull it off occasionally. So,
has anyone seen McMayer since they've released that McRib?
No.
Mayor McCheese has not been seen since McRib has been out. I'm a little suspicious.
There was a Mayor McCheese?
Yeah, for a while they did this Mayor McCheese, and they had a couple other characters, that they personalized this food and make kids want to go eat them.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, that was a big deal way back when they brought out the kids' meals. You'd have thought that those have been out forever, but they haven't been. It was.
We were kids.
No, when I was a kid, they had no such thing. Nope.
Oh, gosh, you poor guy. You're not that much older than me.
Well, I was in the 60s. You see, you were still on baby food in the 60s.
Yeah, pretty much. I was born in 61.
Oh, it was 61? Okay, I thought it was 64. No.
So I just look young for my age.
Yes, indeed. Well, 61. Let's see. If you were born in 61, that means that you're getting close to retirement. What's that like?
I'm getting close to retirement. I don't know.
Yeah, you're 59. What's it like to not?
I know what it's like to be close to the age of retirement, but close to retirement, I'm not really, there yet.
Well, it's a lot of fun. I got to tell you.
Well, I don't. I think, like they say, the 60s or the 50s are the new 30s. I think the 60s are the new 35s, because I really don't feel 60 in the way that I think of my parents as being 60.
Isn't it amazing how that changes?
Yeah.
I thought, well, I remember way back when I was a teenager going, in the year 2000, I'm going to be 43 years old. In the year 2000, man, I don't know if I'm going to live that, and my uncle, he died at 60. My brother died at 64. And stuff, and some of us are going to survive a lot longer than that, which is good, which I don't feel as old, certainly don't feel as mentally as old as I perceive them as being.
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing, because I look at myself and I don't see myself as large as I am, and so I don't cognitively, I don't acknowledge my physical shape as probably as much as I should. There's a little bit of denial about my physical state, but my mental state, I feel, man, I might be 30.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm just 30, because I still have, a lot of things that I want to do, a lot of things that I wake up in the morning and smile about, a lot of things that intrigue me. And I didn't think, maybe I just didn't know my parents that well, but I never picked up that my parents were as readily engaged with finding new things when they were in their 60s. Now, my dad only lived till he was 63. My mom lived till she was 73. And she was probably more engaged in learning more new things than my father was. But I didn't pick up that they were, in the hunt. I guess I would say that would define it. Like you yourself, you're changing your logo, you're changing the concept, or your not the concept of your show, but the availability of your show, exploring new markets and new ways to present yourself. So I don't think somebody in our 60s really did that. Somebody, in our parents' age when they were 60s really did that. That was rare.
I don't think so either. I think everybody was, by that time, you were kind of set in your ways, and thinking new stuff wasn't something that you really wanted to do. All you wanted to do was sit there and watch TV and stuff. I'm finding I'm not working right now because of my shoulders and elbows and all that stuff. I don't even turn on the friggin' TV until nighttime.
Wow,
I'm too busy during the day to do stuff.
Good for you.
Because we've got this podcast. I'm doing another one at 4. So if you're not doing anything this afternoon at 4, we're doing another live broadcast. So I'm doing 2 or 3 of these a day, and I'm having a great time doing it. And I love talking to people like you. You make me laugh, and we can reminisce about some really cool stuff.
I have a great time, man. This is the best part of my week. It's fun.
I'm so glad. Because, I get people tell me that I have a lot of authors and I have a lot of people that I interview, but some people tell me, you should just do a show about nothing, kind of like Seinfeld, where you're just rambling about today's events and about what's going on and stuff like that. And so this is kind of that. So I kind of enjoy doing this with you as well.
I have been told many times in my life, well, you're really good for nothing. And yes, I get that. I get that. And I'm proud of that. You got to be good at something. I may as well be good at nothing.
No, but that's not true.
But I like I like it.
But that's not true. It's like that there's an old saying. It's not an old saying. It's actually, I paid $200 to hear this saying. This is at a conference. And he said, I should tell that story real quick. Are you familiar with the landmark people? It's no, it's landmark. It's a self-improvement company.
No, I'm unaware of them.
Okay, well, I'll tell you the story real quick. You go there on a Friday night, and you sign up, and there's like 100 people in the room. And you have what they call a facilitator who's at the front, and he starts talking about things like It starts talking about the stories that we tell ourselves, why we act the way that we do, what's a story. And then people would get up and tell their story about what they thought about themselves, or that, and it came out that your mother was abusive, or dad was distant, or stuff like that. And then they spent the day working. So this was Friday night, and that goes into Saturday all day, and then Sunday all day, and then you have a follow-up course, a follow-up deal on Tuesday, where you're supposed to bring a friend or a group of friends so that they can sign up for next time. These people aren't stupid. And and so so Friday and Saturday we had people that were calling. They had you write letters to people that you were mad at, or that had done you wrong and stuff, and people were calling them parents that I hadn't seen in a long time, or brothers and sisters, and everybody was getting real into that and all about their stories and what they were doing. And so on Sunday, and everybody, and there are people that are crying. There are people that on Friday and Saturday, people that are crying, people that are really invested in what's going on at the moment. And so Sunday, about 1:30 in the afternoon, we're there till 5. The guy at the front of the room says, we've been talking about everything that's been going on in your lives for the last 2 days. And I'm here to tell you, it's all a story that you made up. None of it's real. All of it's fake. And then people would say, well, yeah, but no, I was abused when I was a kid. Can't do anything about that. Neither can you today. You have to let that go. That's a story that you told yourself. You told how you're going to feel about that story. You told how yourself about how they were going to act about how you felt about that story. None of that's real. It's all fake. And people were getting upset because he was devaluing the story that they told themselves. And he said, I suppose you're wondering why I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that to tell you this. Your life is empty and meaningless. And a third of the room, it was like, what? You're telling what? I'm a Christian, and like God says, and people were going crazy with all this, like I know what I'm valuable. I got to, and so he let them go through all of this angst that they were going through for a couple of moments, and actually for about a half hour, and he was answering questions, like, that's a story, the story that you told yourself. That's nothing to do with reality. That didn't really happen. And if it did happen, it didn't happen the way you say it happened, because that's a story that you told yourself. Whoa. And said, and your life, and he kept repeating it. Your life is empty and meaningless. And I'm telling you that because that is the most freeing statement I can possibly give you. Really? That your life is empty and meaningless. And the guy stood up and he called on him, and the guy said, I think you're a fraud. And I think you are a charlatan. I think this whole thing sucks. And I think that you guys should go to hell on the horse you rode in on. Because my life isn't empty and meaningless. My wife tells me that. My kids tell me that. I've got value. I've got this. I've got that. And at one point, the facilitator stopped him and said, no, you misunderstand me. So the guy sat down. He said, this is what I mean by your life is empty and meaningless. Your life is empty until you decide what you're going to fill it up with. And if you decide that you're going to fill it up with crap and the stories that people told you 30 years ago that you still believe today, that's fine. But understand that that's nothing more than the story that you're telling yourself, and that you are in charge of that story. And your life is meaningless until you decide what it means. Wow. And you pick, and you get to pick what your life means. If you decide that it means nothing and that you're not worth anything, that the story you told yourself, it's not true, but if you want to believe it, go ahead. Can't stop you from that. But I'm here to tell you, your life is precious. But if you don't believe it, it's not. So your life is empty and meaningless until you decide what it means, and you're going to fill it up with whatever you want. And you have the ability. You're free to do anything that you like. Fill it up with however you want to live. And then so then people started, well, I guess maybe he's right. I don't know. And everybody had to reevaluate what they had been telling themselves, the story that they believed, what their mothers had said to them, how it all came down so that they could then break through and learn to live life a little bit more authentically and with purpose, because we all have the same thing. We all have the same abilities.
Man, that's some powerful stuff.
Wasn't that an interesting experience?
He really primed them up, got them on the edge, and
he had them going for 2 whole days, and there were people that were so deep and invested in their stories that they kept getting bigger and stuff, because we all want, when something bad happens to us, or when we want to portray it as something that somebody did to us. And that's why it is the way it is. This guy did this. I had a 7-year-old who told me I was worthless, or told me to go away because I was stupid. Well, I took that for years. The 7-year-old. I bought into what a 7-year-old was telling another 7-year-old, and I took it as gospel truth.
Ouch. Ouch.
But that happens to us all. Because
that's so true.
And I remember conversations that I had with my mom, and years later I would say, do you remember the time when I went to clean my room and I cleaned it real well and I put the vacuum cleaner away, and you came home from shopping and said, no, you can't go play because you got to go clean your room? And I said, I did. You said, no, you didn't, because the vacuum's not out.
Oh, but you put it away.
I put it away because I was, sometimes you get really invested in cleaning and getting that done, and you want to look nice and all that. She didn't believe me because that was out of character. But see, now that's a story that by the way, my vacuum cleaner in my house, I never put it away again. To this day, I don't put my vacuum cleaner away. But those are the stories that we tell ourselves. And so I asked her about that. I brought that up. I carried it with me my whole life as a big deal. I told her that story, and she said, I don't remember that.
Really?
So I got to thinking about that. It's like, holy shit. What you're telling me is there are things that have affected me for my entire life that other people supposedly did to me, and they don't even remember it? How screwed up is that?
I know. Your life is worthless.
It's something meaningless, and you get to, and so you, so that brought out all of that, and then the emotions just kept flooding. So now my mantra is, my life, when I got up this morning, my life was empty. My life was meaningless until I and nobody else decided what it was going to mean and what I'm going to fill it up with today.
That's amazing stuff, Kevin.
Isn't that cool?
That's very cool stuff.
And it's so true, because when I got up this morning and I went to my computer and I looked at the logos. In case you're wondering, ladies and gentlemen, I'm working on developing more different logos and taking the program bigger than it is today, which I hope you all will support. But in any event, so I go look at the logos. I send them to people that I respect their opinion. You are one of them, by the way, and somebody else. And I started getting feedback, and the feedback was, well, how about change this? And I was completely lost, had no earthly idea what I was going to do with it. And so you called me, and we worked through it. We worked through it together and came to a place where the understanding that I have now is different than it was then. So I grew through that. and now know what I'm going to do. And then a gal called to be booked on the show. Turns out she's a medium and talked to me about my dad, who had passed away 10 years ago. So when I got up this morning, I had no idea what I was going to do about anything, and I was kind of lost. Now the whole day changed because of the cool things and people that I've had the opportunity to interact with today. So it's become a fabulous day.
What a day, man.
And I want to thank you for that.
That was my pleasure. I had such a great time. It's well, I love art, like I've mentioned before, and that's the reason. There's a process to it. Our perceptions are paramount to our existence, like you just explained. There's a reason why we perceive the world in the way that we do. Thus, there's a reason that art exists in the way that it does, and why it's important. And it should be incorporated in our daily lives. We should spend time with art, at least thinking about it a few minutes every day, and our days would be better if we did so.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. And just the process of putting the art together and what they were thinking when they were doing that. What's the gentleman's name again that we were referencing earlier?
Peter Max.
Peter Max. If you have the opportunity, go look up his work. Peter Max, M-A-X. He's got some really phenomenal, I call it psychedelic 60s kind of look.
Yeah. Yep.
But he really was phenomenal. So for those of you that are wondering, the logo is going to kind of look like a cross between the Partridge Family bus and Yellow Submarine. So it's going to be real vibrant colors, and it's going to be a really light thing designed for everyone to get rid of hate, division, and fear, and because we're declaring our freedom from hate, division, and fear, and all of that. So it's really cool, and that process worked out really, really well, and I thank you for it.
My pleasure.
Now I'm going to try and explain that to the marketing people and see what they come back with. Like, you have no earthly idea what you're talking about. But that could happen too. Hey, pass it over here, brother. I'll take a hit from that. It's not really as fun anymore because it's legal and all that. So
yeah, that's true.
One more story and then I gotta go. And then we gotta wrap this up. But way back in the 70s when the Sonics were still here, and it was no, wait a minute. This is about 82 or 83, and pot, of course, is still illegal and stuff. And a bunch of us got together, and we went and played a round of golf. And I called my girlfriend, who became my wife, unfortunately, and she wanted me to come home. And I said, "Nah, they want me to go to the Sonic game with them." And so I don't get to go to very many Sonic games. So I said, let me go, please, honey, please. And she said, all right, you can go. I felt like a little kid. I was a little kid. In any event, so we go to the Sonics game. We have fun at the Sonics game, have a couple of beers. We come out, we go to a bar. We sit in the man's van. He had remember those Chevy minivan, or not minivans, but those full long vans?
I used to have one. Yes.
Oh, did you have a bed in it?
I had a G20. Well, long story short, yes and no. I could put a bed in when I wanted it.
Oh, so you had a portable bed if you had plans for that evening.
I built the frame that would slide over the wheel wells that would fit my queen size bed. And then back in those days, you could camp on the beach down in Ocean Shores. And I would drive my van down there, open up the side doors, drink my tequila, smoke a cigar, and wake up the next morning, make breakfast, and then head back into town.
Yeah, he used his van and the bed that was in it for his nocturnal activities. What happened is somewheres, but at the end of a bar evening, rather than take her home, he'd just take her to the van.
Wow.
It seemed to work for him.
I've heard of such things happening, yes.
But in any event, there were 6 of us, and somebody brought out some pot. And so we were smoking in the back of the van. We were smoking pot before we were going to go into the bar. And as we're sitting there, I don't know how pot affects you, but it affects me. I don't speak because I feel like I'm going to say something really utterly stupid. And so I just, and everybody else apparently felt the same way. So here they are, 6 guys out to have a killer time, and we're all sitting in the back of a van going,
you first.
are you guys hungry? So it was, so I decided there and then it was like, this is a friggin' waste of time. Waste of time because you're just like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a time and place for it. There's a time and place for it. I don't miss it. It's been years since I've had it. And there are only occasional days that I miss it. And, that's the great thing about it is that that gives you a reason. That gives you an excuse for saying something stupid. Well, I was stoned.
But you see, since I wanted to fill my life up with something meaningful, I didn't want to say something stupid. You see,
that is a conundrum.
By the way, that is Eric Hall over there, and we've been chatting for an hour. I've really enjoyed today's show. I really have.
This was fun. We covered a lot of great subjects: bidets and trees,
from
weed, Peter Max.
Yeah, it was great fun, and we are going to attach the interview that you did with Christine, right?
Yes, a lot of great information. She's a terrific lady. People will enjoy this and get a lot out of it.
And it's the interview is about the structures that are in the woods that were built and then they kind of have been abandoned over time, and so she talks a lot about that. So really that'll be an interesting discussion. So
yeah, she's writing a book about it. So.
Indeed. And when she gets done with the book, I would love her to have her on the podcast as well.
Oh, great. I think she'd enjoy that. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you can bring her and the 3 of us can sit. As a matter of fact, see if we can do that see if she'll come on next week.
I'll ask her. I know that she works, but I'll see if she's available.
Yeah, she's available. And we can change the time too, to make it suitable on Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon. Or at one point. Anyway, but look into that and we'll see.
Okay, I'll do that.
And I want to thank you for participating today. I've had a really nice time, and thank you for helping me with the logo. I think that'll be really, really helpful. Really helpful. So
my pleasure. Looking forward to seeing the results.
Me too. It'll be interesting. Now, of course, I've got to redo everything, more or less. So, given that, and you stay there. I'm going to close out the show, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence Report.